Hello, welcome to Israel. We're so glad you could be with us today. Today's true Bible story we have for the children is about Nehemiah. Nehemiah lived a long time ago. He also lived a long, long way away. It all started while Nehemiah was still in Persia and heard some bad news about the Jews in the city of Jerusalem. The wall around the city was broken down, and the gates were burned and ruined. That meant enemies could sneak in and attack the city any time. Nehemiah was upset when he heard that his people were in trouble, but he knew he couldn't do anything about this problem without the king's permission. Nehemiah worked for the king, and one day the king asked him why he looked so sad. Nehemiah explained the news he had heard about Jerusalem's walls. When the king asked Nehemiah what he wanted to do, Nehemiah prayed to God before he answered. He knew that if God wanted him to go, God would make it happen. The king gave Nehemiah permission to go home with another group of Jews and rebuild the gates and walls of Jerusalem. He even sent soldiers with the group to help protect them along the way. Nehemiah wanted to get to work right away, but first he had to see how bad the walls and gates were to know where to start. But he couldn't let the enemy see him. So he got up in the night and took a few men with him to take a closer look. Uh-oh. Things were pretty bad. The stone walls were broken, and the wooden gates had been burned. In some places, there were so many loose stones and broken pieces that Nehemiah couldn't even get past the mess and had to go another way. This would be a big job. When Nehemiah told the Jews that he wanted to rebuild the walls, they all got ready to work. Everyone helped. Rich and poor, the priests, storekeepers, everybody. All did their part. They cleared away the broken pieces of wood and stone, rebuilt the gates and doors, and stacked stones for the wall. But the Jews had enemies who weren't happy that Nehemiah had come to rebuild the wall. 3 men, Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, were leaders of the other people who also lived in Judah. They were not Jews, and they didn't want the Jews to protect their city. They wanted them to be weak and afraid. When these troublemakers heard that things were going well on the wall, they tried to make the Jews feel bad so they would stop working.
"Look at those weak and wimpy Jews," Sanballat jeered. "How will they ever finish their wall? All they have is broken stone that have been burned with fire."
Tobiah made fun of them too, saying,
"Even little foxes could break down their wall if they climbed on it."
Nehemiah didn't say anything mean back to these men. Instead, he asked God to deal with those bullies. And the Jews kept working until the wall went all the way around the city. Although it was only halfway up, they still had a lot to do. The enemies planned to attack the Jews, so they'd have to stop building and fight to protect themselves and their families. When Nehemiah heard about this plan, he and the Jews did 2 things. They prayed, and they acted in faith. They asked God for help and trusted Him. But they also set a guard to watch for their enemies so they could be ready to fight. When the enemies heard that the Jews knew about their plan to attack, they called it off. God had put a stop to their plans. The Jews went back to building, but Nehemiah had an idea to get the people ready in case their enemies tried again. Let's read what they did in Nehemiah 4. In Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 16 through 18, Nehemiah tells us, "From that day on, half my men worked on the wall. The other half was ready with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers stood in back of the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand, and they carried a weapon in the other hand. Each builder wore his sword at his side as he worked. The man who blew the trumpet to warn the people that the enemy were coming stayed next to me. Everyone did their work, but they were always ready with weapons nearby. If they saw an enemy, the man beside Nehemiah would blow his trumpet. That would be the signal for everyone to stop working and gather together to defend their wall." God helped Nehemiah make a wise plan that helped the people stay ready for an attack while still working on the walls. Nehemiah prayed to God for protection and trusted God to help him. God answered Nehemiah's prayers. He protected the people, and the wall was finished in just 52 days. That's a pretty amazing story, huh? We have a pretty amazing God. Well, it's been wonderful spending this time with you. Hope you have a wonderful Shabbat.